Hey everybody, Justin with AmericanTrucks.com, and today we're taking a closer look at and installing the Rough Country cold air intake available for your 2019 and newer 5.7 Ram at home. Now, you guys should be checking out the Rough Country option for your Hemi if you are looking for one of the most affordable, no tune required options available in black that is still backed by a limited lifetime warranty. So I don't know if price can be considered a feature, but honestly guys, it's gonna be one of the most appealing things about this particular option from Rough Country. Now, with that in mind, you do have to kind of temper your expectations a little bit in regards to things like airbox design. Now, some of your more expensive options will include a more elaborate or even sealed airbox to really help isolate that filter from the hot engine bay air. Now, the Rough Country option here, on the other hand, well, as you can see, is going to utilize a relatively thin stamped aluminum heat shield design that will still serve a purpose, but might not be as effective or maybe fit as well as some of those more elaborate options we just talked about. Now, that filter is a high flow reusable option which will help increase airflow to your 5.7 while lasting thousands and thousands of miles. Now, because it is reusable, you'll just simply want to remove it and clean it off with a little bit of air first before reinstalling. Certainly better than having to buy a new paper element factory style filter every 10,000 miles or so. Now, on top of that, the exposed or open filter design will help deliver a deeper growl, if you will, under hard acceleration, and that is something that a few owners have mentioned in the customer review section. As always, guys, feel free to read up on some of those before pulling the trigger. Always great to hear from fellow Ram owners about their experience here with the Rough Country. Now, moving into the intake tube itself here, guys, as you can see, powder-coated aluminum option in black, almost a dark charcoal, if you will, and that will certainly lend itself to a stealthier appearance under the hood. Now, if you're not into the stealthier option, you want things to pop a little bit more anytime you pop that hood at your next show, well, you can find some pretty affordable chrome or polished options here on the site if you prefer a little bit more flash, but I think the black or stealthy options typically make up the more popular options here on the site, or at least in the category. Last but not least, guys, we have to talk, of course, about features outside of the overall appearance and construction. And of course, we're talking about power, right? That's always the big expectation when you're installing something like this. A little bit more power, but just how much? Well, Rough Country doesn't give us any exact numbers with this particular 5.7 kit, but it has been my experience over the years with these no tune required options that you might see anywhere from the high single digit, low double digit gains at the tires without the use of any tuning. And again, I do want to remind you guys, this is a no tune required option, meaning you can get it out of the box, bolt it up and go without the need for anything else. And finally, guys, we can't forget about the price, right? Right around that $200 price point. The Rough Country is going to be one of your more affordable options in the category, and certainly one of the most affordable that will come along with a limited lifetime warranty. Always worth pointing out regardless, but especially rare at this particular price point. But now we do want to shift gears and talk a little bit more about the install. And honestly, guys, if this is the first modification you're tackling on your newer Ram at home, don't worry, it's certainly one of the easiest mods you will ever tackle. Because of that, the site is going to stick to a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. Call it maybe a couple of hours at absolute most to complete from start to finish. But now to give you a better idea of what you're in for, check out our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, a pair of diagonal cutters, a 4mm Allen wrench, an extension, and 7 and 8mm sockets. What's up, guys? Today we're installing an intake on our Ram. First, we're going to watch a quick little uninstall video for how to remove your stock intake, and I'll meet you right back here for the install.
All right, first step here, you're going to disconnect the temp sensor just by disconnecting that harness. Pinch and pull back. Next up, we're going to disconnect this hose, which is just to the left. You're going to push up on that gray locking tab from the bottom and pull straight back. Next, we're going to take a flathead screwdriver and we're going to loosen up this clamp connecting the factory hose to the throttle body. All right, so now that we have that loosened up, we're going to pull up on this tubing to disconnect it. Now what we want to do is lift straight up on the airbox to disconnect. There's 2 little rubber plugs that these are in that are kind of retaining that in place. So we're just going to pull and disconnect it from there. There we go, and we're going to set this aside.
Now before we install our new intake, we need to assemble some of our pieces. First thing we're going to do is transfer all of the grommets on our stock airbox over to our new airbox. So now we can just pull these grommets out, and then we'll press them into our new airbox. Next, we can install our weather stripping around the top side of our intake box. So we can just press it on and wrap it all the way around. Now once you get to the other side, if you have any excess, you can use a pair of diagonal cutters to trim that off. Next, we can install our intake coupler into our intake box. Now we have 2 threaded holes that we're going to be using our Allen head bolt with a lock washer and flat washer to go in there. The wider side is going to go on the inside of the intake box for the air filter to go onto. And then we can tighten these down with a 4mm Allen wrench. So next we can assemble our intake pipe. We're gonna have to transfer over our air sensor from our stock intake tube to our new one. We have a new grommet that will go in that hole. And then we'll install our vacuum fitting into the bung that has the threaded hole. So now we can take our vacuum fitting and thread that into our hole. And then we can take our grommet and slide that into this hole. And then we'll twist left on our air sensor to remove that. And then wiggle it out. And then we can slide that into that grommet. So now we're ready to install our intake box. We're gonna line up our grommets with these 4 posts here and press it into place. Next, we can install our intake filter. So we've got our clamp in place, slide it onto that coupler, and then we can grab a 7mm socket to tighten down our clamp. So next we can install our 2 couplers. Now both of our couplers are the same. There's a 4-inch side and a 3.5-inch side. The 4-inch side is going to go to our intake tube, and the 3.5-inch side is going to go to our intake filter coupler and our throttle body. So we'll get our clamp on, slide the 3.5-inch side onto our throttle body. Our clamps are also labeled with 3.5 and 4 so that you can't mix them up. And then we'll grab an 8mm socket to tighten down our clamp. And then we can do that same thing on our intake filter coupler. And then we can tighten up that clamp with our 8mm socket. Next we can install our intake tube. So first we'll grab our 2 4-inch clamps and slide them onto our couplers. And then we'll slide our pipe in on the intake box side first, and then into our throttle body. And then we can slide our clamp into position and tighten that down with that same 8mm socket. Now the last things we need to do are reconnect our vacuum line and reconnect our connector for our sensor. And then we can just press on the fitting for our vacuum line. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Rough Country cold air intake for your 2019 and newer 5.7 liter Ram 1500. Thank you for watching, and for all things Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.